Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to get started with the Q&A. I would just like to remind everybody to hit the subscribe button underneath the video there. You can submit some questions in the chat for the YouTube, and we'll get as many as we can. And if you're watching live from the Zoom, you're also welcome to type some questions in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can. So we have three people with us. Two you saw in the film, and Felicia as well. So we have Kim, Felicia, and Kiwi. And let's start with Kim. Kim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a detective with the Seattle Police Department, 33 years. I often say I don't really detect anything. I'm assigned to the collaborative policing unit, so I don't have a caseload or anything, and focus more on doing collaborative policing outreach and working with community to hopefully make policing better and reduce the number of people that we end up arresting and incarcerating. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Kiwi, why don't you go next?
Hey everyone, my name is Kiwi. I have been a part of the IF project since its inception in 2008, so around 13 years. And I am currently working for the IF project as the community relations manager. And yeah, that's me. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Hey, I'm Felicia Bryant, and I'm currently the director of programs with the IF project. And I guess you could say I've been with the IF project since its inception to roughly around 2008.
Well, let's jump right into the questions here because we don't have a ton of time and there's a bunch of good questions. How many correctional facilities is the IF project in, and are any of them for men?
Do you want me to take that? And then you guys can go in. I have to be honest, for those of you that are tuning in, it's really weird not to see you. So I can only see like 4 people, but I'll try to figure this out. Well, we started in Washington Correction Center for Women. So we're at the women's prison there. And we're starting to currently work in one of the juvenile prisons called Echo Glen and putting a program together, as well as our King County Juvenile Detention, which is the biggest county in Washington State. And then we've been to Colorado, Richmond, Virginia, currently in Alabama, it's being taught at a men's prison by a professor from the University of Alabama. We've been in all of the 4 women's prisons in California, corrections or CDCR, and then they've actually done a train the trainer so that they can have staff and residents actually co-teach the programming.
Does that all happen in Washington?
Has that all happened?
Does all the training happen in Washington, or do you have like satellite?
No, we've actually gone into the facilities and trained in person. So that a lot of that obviously was pre-COVID. Which I always feel like it's better to go into the facility and meet with the people face to face than try to do, things through a computer and stuff like that. Because every facility that we've been in is different. And then the documentary that y'all saw today is gone. We've actually been into the women's prison in Nigeria, Africa, which was fascinating, and Ethiopia and Dubai. The government picked the documentary up to be shown at U.S. embassies around the world. So it actually was seen in a lot of other embassies around the world for them to talk about being gender responsive, gender specific within their countries. When looking at female incarceration.
Does anybody have anything to add?
Kim covered it all.
Okay, jump to the next one. What's happening now with the IF project? Like, is there any big changes since when was the film completed, and then what has changed about it since then? Like, how has it evolved?
Kim, I'll let you answer.
I don't remember when it was finished, but.
Well, I've had 7.5 bad haircuts during the filming. So just to let you know, that was filmed for 7.5 years. And then a lot has changed, and it was completed. We started in 2008, and the filming completed about 2014 or 15, and then was released at the Seattle International Film Festival. And it's gone on since there. And I think Felicia can actually talk about kind of like what we're doing now in Kiwi, and I can fill in some blanks if there's anything missing.
Currently, right now, I'm proud to say, and I'm very excited to say that the IF project is currently run by the majority of us are all formerly incarcerated individuals, all formerly incarcerated women. it's very exciting because of the fact that, we're talking about gender responsiveness, and to be able to run an organization using lived experience, as well as, just education and just mainly lived experience, to be able to assist those who are coming home. I mean, it's beautiful. There are no other organizations that do this, and we also have co-leadership on our board. We're becoming more, we're focusing more on case management, where we're really developing and honing down on our case management plan to ensure that we are providing that holistic support around our females that are coming home. And we're really, like I said, we're really focusing on being gender responsive, because men and women's needs are vastly different as they reenter society. And so women currently are being reincarcerated. I believe it's the last figure I checked was at least 3 times more the rate than men are, and that's a problem. And it's basically because the correctional system is built for men by men. Therefore, all the programs are built for, are geared for men. Like I said, men and women's needs are vastly different. Women are more concentrated on reuniting with their children, reuniting with their families, becoming that mother figure. Men are more concentrated on going to work. So you can't have programs, again, like I said, that are geared for men when you have women who are reentering. So a lot of exciting things that are going on. We're hoping to, like I said, really expand upon our programs, really strengthen them. And, it's just a really exciting year for us.
What do those programs to get people ready to, pointing out the gender differences there? What do those programs look like to get somebody ready, prepared to be a mother again, or prepared to
Basically, what we really focus on is burial removal. So it's unique to the individual. Each of their needs could be different. One person, they may need, help with driver's license, getting a driver's license. Maybe they've had a driver's license before, but they have, fines or fees or whatnot that's prohibiting them. Another person may need help with, housing assistance. So it's really dependent upon that individual and what their individual case plan is, what their goals are, and, just how we can assist them.
Does anybody else have anything to add there?
I would just add the one thing that we started learning when we first started doing the F project is the pathways to incarceration. To kind of dovetail off what Felicia said, the pathways to incarceration for women, the top 4 criminogenic factors, there's not one that's in common with men, and their socioeconomic issues, to the point Felicia's talking about. They need money to be able to also support their children. The World Health Organization would say 80-85% of them have a diagnosable mental health condition that needs to be addressed, unhealthy relationships, and then dependency. So you have those 4 factors that are the pathways that are getting them there. So when they're getting ready to come home, if the system that they were in for a minute doesn't have programming that can address those things prior to coming home, it actually makes it a little more difficult in the transition. So when being gender responsive and trauma informed, making sure that, like the IF team knows, and they do, the organization, that's what they're dealing with. And then I think it's really important, again, to just say, people that are that have been impacted should be that they have solutions that we haven't even thought about. So that's one of the things that I think is important too. And 85% of women that are incarcerated are mothers. So to Felicia's point, they're trying to get back to family and be reunited. And the other thing we don't think about in the system is when you take a woman out of community, the ripple effect of a woman leaving community to go be incarcerated is significantly more difficult for other children than actually men. So we know that their children will potentially be impacted in not so positive ways as well. So how are we interrupting the legacy of incarceration by really understanding women's pathway and how to help her get ready to come home to be successful?
Yeah. And it's really surprising to hear that I think you said it was triple the rate of men going back in, or like that. What do you think the reason for that might be?
Again, it's well, from personal experience, to me, it's programming. Again, the programs are geared for men. They're not really addressing women's needs. The other thing is, like I said, programming, it's just not addressing women's needs. I don't know how else to explain it.
Right.
Sure, no, I think.
Right. Yeah, I was just gonna add to that. Yeah, the programming, I would say especially like employment opportunities, at least for WCCW for a long time. You know, the only thing that they had for us to do when you get out is to be a hairdresser or to plant some plants, you know, to be a gardener, you know, until, you know, we have track now, the trade related apprenticeship coaching, and I'm not sure what else what else is brewing now since of COVID, but you know, so that was a big issue too, of not having any kind of being able to learn new skills to get employment. So, yeah.
Anybody else?
Just to kind of piggyback on what Kiwi was saying also in regards to employment, a lot of employers don't really understand what it means to employ someone who's formerly incarcerated. And if that individual is on, you know, if they come out on paper or if they're, you know, drug court related, their name or number or color may come up at any time where they may have to go, you know, do a drug test, or, you know, their CCO can, or their CCO can call at any time and say, hey, I need you to come in. And it's not like we can say, no, I'll be there in about 2 hours. No, because if we say that, we can guarantee that in less than an hour, they'll be there to pick us up, you know? And so employers really need to understand what it means to work with someone who's formerly incarcerated.
Yeah, that's surprising. Go ahead.
I would just add, so the one thing about being, you know, trauma informed, which gender responsivity rolls right into that, is like Washington State is going through what they call the GIPA, which is the gender informed practice assessment. So they're taking a look at the women's prison, all of the programming, talking to staff, talking to residents, and doing an overall view of the facility to figure out how they can become more gender responsive, to Kiwi and Felicia's points, like what's missing inside for the women. And then they have a separate thing called the WERNA that was started by a lot of the pioneers in being gender responsive in corrections. It stands for Women's Risk Need Assessment, where it looks at the woman and that specific needs to her, because again, like what Felicia said, everything was built by men for men, and you have to go, I mean, I'm sure everybody on this call doing anything trauma informed know that when you're dealing with a woman versus dealing with a man, there's even a whole different conversation that happens, as opposed to even just yes and no answers. Like, how do you get the deep dive to get them to feel comfortable to ask for help when lots of times that unworthiness is staggering. So Washington State is really doing a deep dive and being gender responsive so they can mitigate some of the issues that are going on in the prison and have more successful reentry for women returning.
So I want to get into something, and if you're not comfortable with it, just let me know. Q, I'd like to know more about like what your journey's been personally out after, you know, after the camera stopped rolling. Like what happened in your life?
I mean, there's a lot that happened, but you know, when the camera stopped rolling, I was still incarcerated, right? So I served almost a 14-year sentence, and so like I said, I was there from 2008 till 2000. I mean, since the IF project started in 2008 until I got out 18. But you know, it was, you know, I had my basically just try to focus and figure out what I can do for myself to give myself a chance to be successful. Like we mentioned, that like the lack of programming. So, you know, I stayed in a library, and when programs did come, you know, I jumped right over it. FEPS came, and, you know, so that helped me get, you know, a college education, join tracks, as, you know, make sure at least if I can't get the job that I want, I'll get a job at least to take care of myself and a future family if need be. It was amazing when I got out, even, you know, when the cameras weren't running, they're still, what you see on the film is what you see when they're not filming. You know, they had our back. If we needed anything, you know, they were there, or they connected us to resources that we you know, they didn't have it, they connected us to someone who did. I even got help with my college books, you know, or just anything. If I needed to call someone to just talk something through, you know, that's a big thing. You know, we leave behind families that we kind of start in there. You know, we have a sense of kinshipness when you have a long time there. You know, when you're separated from your family, we have our own family there. And then when you step away and you leave them behind, and you have technically we're not allowed to communicate once we leave because we're on if you're on probation. So your you know, your family that you created in there, they're no longer there. So it's kind of hard to find another support system. And, you know, if was kind of that for me. The struggles were pretty hard. You know, just to finding a job, you know, it was a little bit scary. I got out and I joined the Cement Masons Union. That didn't quite work out. I wasn't getting calls like I, you know, imagined it to be. I thought I was going to get out. I had all my equipment ready. I think I got called maybe twice and I was like, okay, well, I have payments to make for my probation. This isn't going to work. How am I going to, you know, what am I going to do? And then, you know, Kim helped me get connected with the Delilah show. And, you know, I was a assistant editor producer for the Delilah show for a while. And then now I'm employed with the IF Project. You know, I don't know, the IF Project had a positive impact on my life and my other friends that were involved with IF Project too. And, you know, I'm really glad to still be a part of this team and to share that those blessings to the women that are coming out behind me, you know. But like, as far as there, you know, I still have troubles today and I'm off probation because that stigma of being formerly incarcerated, you know, once somebody knows, it's really hard to shake. And, you know, hopefully what we're doing at IF is going to help combat that because we can show that we are more than our past. We're more than our number. We're more than our mistakes that we made. And I think IF really does help their participants like myself to achieve that, to get away from that. But
have you acted as a mentor to anybody else who's come out more recently, or that you are you able to do that?
I'm not officially. I don't know that's just me as a person. Like I know I was locked up for a really long time. So I know a lot of the ladies. So we're in communication. And so technically I would say yes, but I guess like if it's under IF, I wouldn't say, oh, Kiwi, you're assigned to this person to be their mentor. No, but chances are that we're talking and I'm helping and I'm navigating whatever they need, even men too, because I, you know, unfortunately, I know a lot of males who are incarcerated who get out, young folks too. So, so yes and no, if that.
No, that's a good answer. I'd also like to know, is there any other updates we can get about some of the people who are featured in the film since you know it ended, since editing finished, and whoever wants to offer that, go for it.
Right. I'm not sure we're allowed what all we're allowed to disclose, but
well, I think anything that's public record we can disclose. So Tiffany's back inside. She got out. That was a really difficult time. We could not find her a bed anywhere for rehab in 3 states. And we tried when you saw her get dropped off in the emergency room. That was really tough. And it was really evident of significant issues we have regarding chemical dependency and mental health, as far as people that are poor cannot get assistance, period. So she ended up catching another case and went to drug court, and actually drug court was excellent for her. And she did really good for about 2 years. And here we go with one of those 4 criminogenic factors. She got not a great relationship with a man, and they started using again, and she got hemmed up, and she's back inside for I think a couple years, ready to do it again. And the truth is we'll be there when she gets out. I mean, part of it is, you know, you fall down, you get up, you try again. It's not like we're done with you because it didn't work. I just talked to Renata last week, and she's had a really rough go of it. She was doing good. And then she got in a really weird scam to buy a house, but she bought it and then had to sell it, and fell off a ladder when she was putting it together, and actually probably broke her back and really did something bad to her neck. But again, poverty steps in. They decide not to operate on anything for a year and a half. She has neck surgery, and then they're like, oh my God, we should have done your back at the same time. So she was literally like, has a disability and shuffles around. And just found out that when she was incarcerated, and she's been out now for, how long has it been, Kiwi? 6 years maybe or so?
yes,
5 years?
Something like that, yeah, or more, yeah.
And when she was incarcerated, somebody in her family forged her name and signed her house, her family house with her name, over to them, and they're getting ready to sell it. So she's in a battle with that. So it has not been an easy road for her at all. And you know, to poverty's point, unfortunately, it is the global reason for incarceration. It's the number one reason for incarceration all over the world is poverty. So all these other things end up falling in. And I haven't talked to Angela in probably 2 years. Vargas, Kiwi, or Felicia, do you have an update on
Yeah, Vargas, she is back in Victorville. She's doing pretty good. Her mom and her brothers, they bought a house. They all bought a house together, a big house, and so they're living there. She's doing pretty good. I'm not sure if she has found employment. Her health has been not so good, but she's doing pretty good. Her children are freaking rocking it right now. They're doing amazing. Every single one of them are doing great things. So yeah, Vargy's doing pretty good. Some of those ladies that weren't quite featured in the film, but they were in the background, like some people who have life are actually out, or had really long sentences, have been released and doing amazing things. I know Andrea Alzheimer, she had a really long time, wasn't quite life, but it might as well have been. She was released and she's doing great things. I think she works for Choose 180 out here, a nonprofit organization. Tanya
Community
Wilson.
Passageways.
Community Passageways. Yeah, excuse me. Sorry. Yep.
Right.
Tanya Wilson, she works for the Freedom Project. Yeah. She's doing great.
She was the woman at the beginning that read that beautiful poem. That's Tanya Wilson. Just
right. Her and Felicia Dixon, who was also in the film, were on a flight just an hour or two ago to Denver to speak on incarceration. Who else? I'm not sure if Shawanda was in the film.
Felicia Dixon just started at University of Washington, started college.
Right, I was just getting ready to say that.
Okay.
I was transitioning over to the college part. That's what I said.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Shawanda and I, we both graduated with our bachelors from Evergreen State College Tacoma campus. I think Ta might have like 1 quarter left and she'll have her bachelor's degree. I think Andrea Alzheimer, she's been taking classes one at a time to get her bachelor's. Has Miranda in this film? There's so many people. I don't think so. Okay, but yeah, there's a lot of folks doing some good. Jackie Fletcher, I think she wasn't like interviewed or anything, but you can see her in there. She was a lifer. She's out. Haven't talked to her in a minute. But Melissa McKee was the one.
Melissa McKee, the one at the end that said make room for me. She actually works with the City of Olympia Police Department as one of their community outreach people, dealing with people on the street and stuff, and she's doing really well. And she actually did go into dog grooming when she got out, which is something she learned inside, but it was a good starting point for her. And now she has a city job with a pension and, all that other kind of stuff.
Whose dogs are they grooming while they're incarcerated? Are they bringing people's dogs in?
You guys talk about
that's interesting.
The prison pet partnership program.
Yeah.
Cool.
PPP.
Felicia, would you mind sharing a little bit about your story? Because I don't think we heard about that.
Yes. I was incarcerated for literally 1 day under 5 years, 2008 to 2012. When I went in, I was fortunate enough to have a background. I had family support. I had family support. I had friends. I had community that was behind me. You would think that would have been enough. However, it really wasn't. And the reason why I say that is because it played a really big, having all of that support behind me really played a big part in how I did my reentry. I'm a preacher's kid, and I'm also a military brat. My dad was in the military for 27 years. So when we talk about, rules, I was hit with them from both ends. So it was more or less, you can say that, it was kind of programmed in me. I guess you could say that I was going to rebel. It was just natural. But even through my time of rebelling as I was growing up and getting into different things, I really never really had to exert any energy or really work for anything. I guess you could say that in a sense, if you really look at it, I had a silver spoon in my mouth. Not to say that, my parents gave me everything that I wanted, but I knew how to get what I wanted. And, and that was to my detriment. That led to my fall. And so when I was in prison, I knew that I was going to get out one day. And I decided that as much as I loved my family and I knew that they would be there when I came out, I knew that in order for me to be able to survive and to not go back to prison, that I had to isolate myself from my family for a little bit. And that was one of the hardest decisions that I had to make, because like I said, my family is everything to me. But it also taught me that I can do anything that I put my mind to. It also taught me that it's a real brutal world out here. And we need support. Like I said, I bring up the fact that, I knew where to go. I knew who to talk to. But I also think about those who don't know where to go, who don't know who to talk to, who don't know where, those support services are, who don't know what a support system even is. And it more or less kind of really fueled a fire in me, because like I said, I was there for literally one day under 5 years. And there was one woman who came back each of those 5 years. And I'm sitting there just thinking, man, if you give me one chance, I can guarantee you I'm not coming back, at least not as an inmate. And so, like I said, I really began to think when I was sitting in prison, I'm like, okay, am I some kind of different breed? Why is it so easy for me to say, okay, I'm not coming back, and know without a shadow of a doubt that I'm not coming back, versus someone who does come back? But then I really, really started looking at it, and it's like, because there's no support out here. There's no support. Everybody who walked out those doors before me, they never said, I'll be back. They always said, I'll see you on the outside. And so, like I said, it began to fuel a fire in me. And like I said, I was fortunate enough when I went in that I had my bachelor's in social and human services. I told myself that as soon as I released, I was going to get my master's. I told myself that after I got my master's, I was going to get my doctorate. Just recently, in June of 2020, just June of this past year, I received my doctorate in psychology. My plan is, excuse my French, but I'm going to shake some shit up in the reentry world, because we need support out here. And one thing that we can thank COVID for is that it has brought reentry to the forefront. And, as Kiwi can attest, I'm always telling them, it's our time. It's our time, it's our world, and we're going to take it by storm. So
great to hear. That's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. One of the things I want to ask, and maybe this is Kim's question, but maybe not. How do facilities go about getting the F Project involved? Like, do you reach out to them? Do they reach out to you? How does this continue to spread?
Well, typically people reach out to us, and then it's kind of like a meeting determining what exactly they need, because either Kiwi or Felicia can go a little bit different into programmatically what is available. Mm-hmm. Because at the onset of that question in 2008, every single one of the programs that has been built, I think there's 4 or 5 now, is built from the answers to that question. So it just depends. If somebody looking for reentry, they want a writing workshop, they're a writer series, they want a health and wellness, what do they want? Do they want a documentary screening and bring some people in to actually talk to the residents, to actually, to again, you guys are, it's hard for me to speak because these guys had the experience, but like it's not great for them coming home. I watched it now for 13 years and they've all lived it, but like them also giving people the reality of reentry, but also offering hope as well. Like, there's stuff out there, we obviously need more, but this is what I did and this is what works. So most of the time, we've never had to go solicit. It's always come to us like, hey, and then there's a juvenile program as well. So
I don't think you touched on the film, Kim, but you sort of, it seems like there was a journey that you maybe went through before we come to you in the film, where you talked about corrections and, what is the point of this? Like, how did that talk about how that change happened to you, that like this is what you wanted to focus on in the incarceration process, rather than just,
Well,
for lack of a better
nothing
term, locking
was,
people up.
yeah. Well, first of all, I cringe when I watch it now, and I don't watch it very often because after a while you're just like 1,000 times and you're like ready to, well, but I don't use the word convict at all. Even though we asked, at that time, 10 years ago, that was a word that everybody said was okay. But ironically, it was said that it was okay by a lot of men. We never really asked the women, and that was what it was about. And the interesting thing about the film is we never planned 7.5 years of filming. We didn't even know when we came in to do this, like it was a really random, I got a call from Girl Scouts Beyond Bars. So I always say, or, eat the cookies, especially if they have a Girl Scouts Beyond Bars, because they actually have the girls do the troop meetings inside with the mothers. To Felicia's point, like that family unification is extremely important. So they called and said, hey, we saw this program you were doing on the outside. Would you work with our troop? And they're comprised of girls whose moms are incarcerated. And I was in youth outreach at the time. And I was like, absolutely. But I want to go to prison first, and I want to meet with their moms and ask permission. Because the last thing I wanted to do is, as a police officer, is, instill any type of fear in the mother that I was like telling their child at a troop meeting that they were bad because they were in prison, or whatever anybody thinks about policing. And we could have a whole nother conversation on how we need to shake that shit up, using Felicia's quote unquote, in the country right now. So I went in and I had 20 years on at the time, and really had my world rocked because I was really involved in community policing, but I realized I had a lot of like misconception and misunderstanding of people that were locked up. And when I walked in the room to meet the mothers that were inmates, I was like, wow, they just look kind of like normal. And for 20 years, I had seen people, especially women, kind of at the bottom of they were not having a good day when I ended up running into them. And the last time they saw police, they were probably being put in handcuffs. So there was this really interesting, it was cold, it was icy in the room, but we started talking about their kids. And then they started telling me their stories. And I remember thinking, man, we need to get these stories out for these kids that are next in line to come inside. So what happened is I popped a question, and I didn't write anything down. And I went back in, and Renata Abramson handed me a stack of the answers to those questions. And I started reading them, and I was like, holy cow, like, what do we want to do? And then we started having focus groups inside, and Kathleen Horan, one of the other co-founders and the filmmaker, and I and a couple other people that she knows came in, and we just met with about 100 women, and every single one of them they didn't want to be compensated. They didn't want to get canteen or commissary. They didn't want to like get out early. They wanted to see if their story could make the difference in some child's pathway and change their trajectory, which was the most unselfish thing I had ever heard in my career, to be really honest. And that's how it was kind of born. It's like, what do you want to do? And it's like, well, can we put some stuff on film? And then Kathleen just started running film. We really thought we'd film for a year, but all these stories started taking off. My relationship with Kiwi, like the thing that you see in the film is I would say it's the writing workshop, which is the core of the whole project, because everything has come from the answers in those writing workshops to how we now build the other program. But I mean, for me, I probably have more friends that have been in prison than I have friends that haven't been, that I feel like are real, true, honest friends. And there's an authenticity that we have that I feel grateful and honored to be able to participate in getting their stories out. And last thing I'll say, then I'll shut up, is 10 years ago, I'm on the governor's reentry council in Washington State. And I was sitting in the meeting a couple months ago, and I looked around the room and everybody's talking. Everybody in that room was formerly incarcerated or in running an organization or number two, or not, like they were high up in these organizations. 10 years ago, not going to happen. A bunch of us that believed in whatever were the ones in the room. And now it's like, sweet, they're actually running things. That's why I'm super proud that if it's like taking that turn, and that's what we've always wanted. And they can get elevated to a place to make change. And those of us that are, allies and supporters, where we have our power and privilege, kick the door open to make sure that those voices get, heard, and the stories are understood, because the stories of people incarcerated are not very different than a lot of our own stories. And we need to find those commonalities that actually link us together as human beings. When you start changing hearts and minds like that, I think we can actually start changing our problem in the criminal justice system as a whole.
You should always try and draw a bigger circle around, that, and that's how you come to something that works for everybody. And then hearing about the taking 7 years and you thought it would be 1 year is not a, anyone who's worked on a documentary, that's just a pretty common story. I'd like to follow up with you, Kim, a little bit, and just, I want to know how you sort of manage, and maybe that's not a perfect word, like your emotions, because you say most of your friends at this point are, you know, some you've met through this program or incarcerated. Like, how do you draw the line is maybe not the right way to say it, but like, how do you manage that for your internal world, like knowing that you're putting yourself out there with a lot of people?
How do I manage? I often say that tequila is a good thing. No, I'm just kidding. I go to therapy. I'm in Mexico, so I can make that comment. I mean, I go to therapy and make sure that I try to do as much self-care as possible. It's not always easy. I have terrible boundaries. My personal and professional life really is intermixed. I don't know if I do very good with like linear boundaries, but it's also allowed me to get to understand things from maybe a personal level as opposed to like a sterile clinical level, just personally for me, to be able to figure out where we can make change and who needs to be at the table to do that. But yeah, it's been emotional. I mean, the whole thing, but it's like, I have such intense gratitude around it. I don't know. I often think like if it didn't exist, like what would I be doing? Or what kind of meaning would my life have? Because I just feel like there's so much richness in it and so much hope and possibility to really change things. And I love the fact that there's such emphasis on being gender responsive, and it is a female voice that is very rarely heard. I mean, especially women that have been incarcerated. So these two people on the screen here, it's like they are making change, and they should be the ones at the table making the decisions that we all, you know, have the power to put through too.
Yeah. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but I would like to sort of get everyone like a final thought for somebody or something. Let's play the name of the movie. Like, what would you say to somebody now that you've spent some time out? Like, what is your if that you would pass along?
Are you asking the team?
Yeah, anybody, all three. Tim as well.
Someone could have said or done something that would have changed the path that led me to where I'm at today. What would it have been?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna add moving forward too.
Yeah.
Forward. To just know that, like I mentioned earlier, that we are more than our past mistakes. We are intelligent. We can do anything that we put our mind to. If we want to see change, we can help make that happen and have confidence in doing so. And when times aren't perfect, because a lot of times they're not. I've been out almost 3 years, and it's still a struggle, but just holding on to just my faith, as well as attaining my goals and reaching my goals and trying to help others. It keeps me moving forward. So, I would just say, if you can have confidence or find confidence, find a supportive team to build some kind of community around yourself that helps you to continue to grow, to maybe help you discover who you really are if you don't know. And if you do know who you are, to help build you up to make you even stronger. I would say every day I learn something new from working with IF, especially, Felicia has joined our team. It's always positive to see another, Black woman doing her thing who was incarcerated just as I was, proving the world wrong, that we are actually educated, we are smart, and we can make change. So yeah, I would just have to say that to believe in yourself, really, it sounds cliche, but really, a lot of us have some self-esteem and codependency issues. That's part of the reason some folks get incarcerated. So if we can help find a way to remove those barriers and have more faith in ourselves and each other, I think that'll do us some justice.
Kiwi, can I ask you quickly, what do you do for the IF Project? What is your role at the IF Project?
I am the community relations coordinator.
What does that mean?
Basically, I do a lot, really. I mean, right now we're new and we're small. I wear a lot of hats. I engage in outreach. I help write curriculum for different programs that we're putting together. I co-facilitate. I'm on the speakers team. I go share my stories. I help. I'm in a detention center with the youth. I help co-facilitate and help with the curriculum with that. I do the volunteer and mentor program there, manage those things. I do quite a bit there,
Sounds like
you
a
know,
lot.
but
Sounds
I
like
love
a
it.
lot of hats.
Yeah.
Felicia, how about you? What would you say?
I think I would say it's okay to be selfish, because there's no one out there who is going to look out for you other than you. And so it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to say no. It's okay to cut family off. It's okay to cut friends off. You know, that's part of being selfish. I would also say that there is nothing wrong and there's no shame in asking for help. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that, you know, you're any less of a person. It just means that you're asking for help. And, you know, I would, you know, second everything that Kiwi said, but I would also really, you know, emphasize, you know, you don't have to have a big support system, but you need to have at least one person that you know, that can be your go-to. So find that one person, you know, that is there for you, that will support you, that you can talk to, that you can be yourself with. And yeah, go out and find Kim. You know?
Well, good luck, because I'm in the tip of the Baja and there's nobody around.
Hey, I just got my passport, so you know.
I know.
Thank
I hear
you.
you.
And Kim, I know, what would you say maybe is the one biggest step people could make to just break the cycle of people being incarcerated in the first place?
Well, I think that nobody wants to be judged by their worst day. And I think that when we end up having felon or whatever attached to people's names, that's like, we need to really understand the entire pathway and where the failures were before that incident even occurred that caused the incarceration. And if we don't get further up the fire hose, for lack of a better word, when police and corrections step in, it's shooting out, and it's, you know, we got to get further up with like early childhood education, taking a look at literally the 5th grade reading level. That is how they build prison beds. That's no joke. And really start taking a look at kids that are free and reduced lunch when you take a look at poverty being an indicator. But also I think that I often say this, but like, can we just look at the person and not everything else that we have like put on as their little attachments, and find the commonalities that we have in each other? And I think that's how we build, you know,
Humanize us.
You know, yeah. Humanize it, and not just, yeah, everybody needs to humanize each other more, you know. But incarceration is just a piece of a person's life, and there's a story to it, and really understanding that and not being afraid of or judging from it. So, and I always just say, you know, we just need to be a lot kinder. So
yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Further up the fire hose, the better, you know. That's where you have this all. All right. Well, thank you very much. I had a great time speaking with all of you. Is there anything else you'd like to say before? Yeah.
One more thing to me, if anybody wants to reach out to us, it's just Felicia or Kiwi or Kim at theifproject.org. If you have any follow-up or any questions that you want, or you can go to the website and find us there. So.
Okay, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the movie. It was a tough watch. You know, there's so much emotion just pouring out, and it's really hard to watch. And thank you for making it.